Hi, I'm Ivy Slater. Welcome to Slater 6X Live and happy International Women's Day, everyone. It's really exciting to be here with you today. It's exciting to be a part. For those of you who are following Ivy Slater and Slater Success on LinkedIn, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and any other platform, we are highlighting a ton of wonderful, wonderful women leaders, people who've been guests on our podcast, and we ask them for their quotes. What is their tip? What have they learned? And we're sharing that knowledge throughout the day. So it's been a lot of fun. Feel free to check in, comment, and I'd love to see what resonates with you. Today, I have a dear friend, a great woman leader, and a guest that is going to make an impact. And I know that in advance. Ariana Tadler is the founder and managing partner of Tadler Law LLP. Over 27 years of legal experience, she advocates for consumers and investors against corporate fraud and abuse while litigating and managing securities, consumer, data breach, class action, complex litigation. Most importantly, Ariana is considered one of the leading women litigators in the country. She is described by Chambers USA as one of who passionately defends her clients, her interests against the greatest extent possible. More than anything, let me share with you, Ariana is a heart-centered woman leader. She's somebody who shows up at 100%. She's a woman who opens her heart, her mind, and is a giver. And because of those reasons, I welcome Ariana today during International Women's Day to Slater Success Live.
Hi, how are you, Ivy? I'm so glad to be here with you. Thank you for this opportunity, and especially on this very important day when we're celebrating women globally.
It is an important day, and you and I have been through the trenches as women leaders in a variety of ways. So before I go into that, as people are scrolling, whether you're scrolling on LinkedIn or any other platform, if you have a comment, you have a question, you want to weigh in and chat with us, please feel free to do so. I'm going to have my eye on it. Let's go back a step, okay, and let's talk about the idea of women leadership when we were young. When we were young and getting started, you've been a litigator for 27 years. There weren't so many women litigators back in the day. How did you find your way, and how did you, gain that confidence in speaking up and speaking out to build a career?
What a terrific question. So I've actually now been practicing law for over 30 years. I'm in my 31st year. And
by the way, I'm so glad you said that because I was feeling a little old. I thought we were kind of on the same par. I was like, 27 years,
we are
a bit older than you.
Yeah, no, we are. And so thank you. You were making me feel a little bit younger, actually. So kind of touche there. For me, at the time when I first started practicing law, and especially as a litigator, there were not many women in the room. Sometimes I was the only woman in the room. And I was really fortunate to have been raised by parents and really my family as a whole, where there was great encouragement to speak up, engage in dialogue, often engage in debate at the dinner table. Don't show up to a conversation if you're not informed and feel really anchored on your 2 feet to present whatever you're advocating for. And those skills really helped me to find that confidence. And at the same time, I will say, and I imagine there are many women who are, seasoned as we are, given where we are in our careers and our life paths. And of course, we're not just businesswomen, we're far more than that. But there were lots of times where there were efforts made and statements made that in essence work to put, girl in the corner, don't have a seat at the table. And I even remember certain specific statements by specific people who said, so yes, you've been promoted to this, but just be quiet. And, I'm a good listener. I'm also a good strategist. And so I know that it's really important to sit in the pause And I also know that you want to make sure that when you speak at an appropriate time where you're really going to be heard. And so I learned very early on that no, I was not going to be baby in the corner, you know, a little dirty dancing for you. I was actually going to be somebody who would be thoughtful and intentional and deliberate. And I would listen for a good amount of time. And then I would speak up, and I would speak up succinctly. And I think that matters. You want whatever your intention and the impact ultimately to be aligned. And those are skills I've worked on my entire career, including now. I'm working on them now. I just finished taking a mindfulness course with a phenomenal woman, Mitra Minash, out of UCLA. And I know you and I have thoughts about USC and UCLA. And so, you know, I think it's been a really interesting journey, and I don't have regrets, notwithstanding those challenges. I do feel, and I know you share this, that it's really important that we speak to all younger people coming forward about how important it is to express yourself. And I particularly feel strongly about speaking to young women about that you do have a voice. You do need to speak up. And I've even spoken about lean in, step up, raise your hand. Just make sure that when you do speak up, that you say something that is smart, it's clear, and it's impactful.
And I think, you know, I could speak for myself. I know it took me years to really, you know, I'm an introvert by nature. And when I started in the business world, to gain a voice and gain the confidence and the belief that I can speak up, that I can say things that are meaningful and important, it took work. And it was the dedication that I was committed to working at it. Now, the interesting thing, and you know, I want to go here for a minute because I know I can call myself out. My husband said to me years ago, he goes, you know, goes, when we dated, you were, you know, it was always on the quieter, you were on the quieter side. You know, I saw you worked your way with business on like gaining in voice and like working, you know, to have the confidence to use that voice and be heard. He goes, and then you became a mother. And all of a sudden you were vocal and you had something to stand for that was non-negotiable to you. How did, you know, when you started, and our kids are a few years apart, and we've always talked about, you know, Ariana and I have, I will say, have had the fortunate, and I've had the honor and pleasure of developing a true friendship with Ariana over the years. And we talk children, we talk meditation and mindfulness, we talk dealing with our being the sandwich generation. And that's just a fact of life. As the women leaders, we deal with a lot. There's a lot on our plate. So how did the expansion of your family, I'm trying to figure out a polite way to say this, and the expansion of your family, how did that help you or not help you? Did it affect you in finding your voice?
100%. I think that historically, before I had children, and even for quite some time later, people generally referred to me or would describe me as an extrovert compared to others in my family. And I still think I often come across that way, although I did learn through the pandemic that there is an introvert in there. And I had to tap into her and kind of I had to meet her while we were under lockdown. Meet her, greet her, welcome her, and now really help her to thrive as well. I think that question about, you know, is there a pivot? Is there a transition when you do choose to become a parent, and when you become a parent, how does that affect you? And that affected me tremendously. You know, for somebody who had been driven my entire life, knowing I wanted to be a lawyer from the time I was 13, having this visualization of what would my life be like, knowing when I met my husband at that time, hey, listen, you're really great. I'm not really looking to get married. I'm definitely not thinking I'm going to have a family. this will be a nice, kind of side deal.
We can
But
have dinner.
you'll be a great companion. And then of course, he swept me off my feet. We're married over 30 years. We're together over 35 years. And still, we actually came to the altar, and I've told the story before, we came to the altar reaffirming to each other that we did not intend to have children.
Okay.
And then 5 years in, after being married and after having had a dog and making sure that we didn't kill our beloved Guinness, we decided together in exactly the same moment that we wanted to try to start a family. And of course, now we have 2 children whom my boy men that I love very, very much. And
a shout out to your son, whose birthday is on International Women's Day, and he's very graciously shares it with all of us.
He does, and he's such an inspiration and such an encourager of women in particular too. So when I became a mom, I suddenly realized, wow, this is the number one priority. Of course, when you're dealing with an infant, it's let's not break them. Let's not, let anything bad happen. And then as they're growing, seeing as you're moving through those years that you are playing such a pivotal role in their development. And so I suddenly realized that I was lacking from my youth a sense of natural empathy. And over the last 26 plus years, I have really, really worked on that skill. And I think that most people who know me today would say that I'm a really caring person. I take that through all of my relationships. It's not simply my family, my friends, it's our clients. I want to make sure that our clients know that I'm speaking to them as a human being, not a widget, not just somebody who, is somewhere on an Excel spreadsheet and we're going to move that case along.
Or somewhere in a case management system that they're somewhere in kind of a docket, so to speak, but they're not human, right? We're not, they're not, I know what I do. I get so involved. I've truly opened my heart.
Yes.
I think that's one thing about both of us is the true heart connections that we value and how we take that into everything we do. You take that into your business, you take that with your clients, you take that with your kids, you take that into your sisters and your mom and your family. Yes. You take it with the women that you have led, younger generations that we've led and mentored. And you and I are both involved in a variety of things with various women's groups that matter because it matters to both of us.
Yes. And I actually have come to realize not only does it make me feel as a much more whole person, I am much more effective and successful in every aspect of my life by deploying those skills and I'll say employing, meaning literally utilizing them internally. And one of the things that's also been so interesting is, like your children, my children are now grown. They're past their college years. They're out there in the market working, et cetera. And I find that at times when they come to me, they will say, they will tell you something that is either upsetting or frustrating or has angered them. And my natural instinct is to be a problem solver.
Yeah.
And so my natural instinct would be to say, well, you need to do X, Y, Z. Just go do this. And over the last now 6 to 9 months, while I've been doing some more mindfulness training, including with this woman, Mitra Manesh, and some others, Stephanie Alfonso, it's really about living in the pause, mm-hmm. stepping back and up and looking at all of the options, not living in survivalist mode, which is very binary, but rather living in choice mode.
Yeah.
And thinking to myself when I'm hearing, especially one of my children or my husband or somebody else in my family or a client or a friend, when they're telling me something, I have to sit for a minute and say, is this one of those moments they're asking me to problem solve, or are they actually looking for me to simply listen and validate? And one of the new questions that I now use very regularly after sitting in the pause and listening is to ask, how can I help?
What do you need? How can you help? What do you need from me?
Yes.
And I think that's something I have learned in being a parent more than anything. I've learned it in working with people. Sometimes we need to vent. I actually got an email from a client the other day, and just, it is an attorney. It was like a page. And I did a short response, and the email response the next day was, thank you for just being there to hold the space for me, to get it out. And sometimes we just need to get things out. And as the receiver, how are we showing up? People don't always want our input. They just want that space to know that they're safe to share. And I love the word validate, and, I hear you're saying, so I hear this is really frustrating you, or I hear you were pretty angry around this, or I hear you were pretty pissed off you didn't get Springsteen tickets, did you? But I was talking to a girlfriend. She's like, oh, we went into the lottery, right? So I hear you really wanted to go. And she goes, exactly. Thank you. I'm so glad I reached out to you. That's all.
Yes. And, one of the challenges I think we face in today's world is because of social media, because of the way in which we have so many different devices, softwares, platforms to communicate, it's almost like this just explosion of words, right? Words. People are speaking, talking, writing, chatting, pictures. And is there really communication or the word that I use very regularly, connectivity? Are we really connecting, or are we all just talking at each other? And that's why, to me, it's so important to take that minute and just not only make sure I'm listening to what is being said to me, but thinking about the space that we're in. And I love what you just said, holding the space, right? Because there is something to be said for, let's give it a minute. Let's just give it a minute. And I will say, those are key skills that work for you as a human being, as a mom, as a spouse, as a sister, as a daughter, as a friend. And if we want to talk about women empowerment and professionalism and working, et cetera, it is an absolutely essential skill. Because if you listen to somebody like Alexandra Carter, who wrote Ask for More, and she has her own podcast, really great negotiators are listeners.
100%. And I have said that. And for the salespeople out there, I think the greatest salespeople are the greatest listeners. Everybody thinks about salespeople. Oh, you got the gift of gab, you got the schmooze. It's like, woo, great salesperson goes, tell me more. Share a little more with me. Tell me a little bit more. They're an attraction of information.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, please go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay. So, what is, as far as learning over the years, what has been one of the greatest tips you have learned in being a woman, in navigating a career, in building several successful businesses? So if I asked you to introduce yourself, okay, what would you introduce yourself as? Let me ask you that first. If I asked you to introduce yourself, how would you introduce yourself?
I'm a lawyer, an entrepreneur, a business owner, a mother, a wife, a daughter, a sister, a friend, an ally, a mentor, a sponsor, and an absolute proponent and ally for women empowerment.
Well said.
Thank you.
Well said. And, I encourage all the viewers who are scrolling through, take a moment and listen to what Ariana just said. and think about how you would introduce yourself. Who are you and what do you stand for? What is important to you? How do you incorporate this into every action and decision you make throughout your days? To be true to yourself. There's a lot of talk, and I'll put it this way in these hypothetical quotes.
Rabbit ears, rabbit ears.
Rabbit ears, right? Thank you. Of, oh, yeah, authenticity and being authentic, and it's the new buzzword. And think about who you are. Who do you believe yourself to be, and what do you stand for? And hence, if you had that opportunity to introduce yourself, who would you be? And when you aspire to where you're going next, who do you aspire to be? So on that, who are some of the women and leaders who've made impressions on you?
Oh, well, there's an obvious one. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is an easy choice for me. Of course, woman, lawyer, Supreme Court justice, a woman lawyer, Supreme Court justice who truly believed in justice, and especially for equal rights, women's rights, rights for the underprivileged, the underserved, the underrepresented. Those all align with who I am and the work that I've done. I also truly, truly loved her wit. She could just, in one sentence, elicit a zinger, and at the same time, there was some humor with it. And I think she's a really wonderful example of somebody who was able to rise above differences. For example, she was really good friends with Justice Scalia, who has obviously now passed, and they could not have been more diametrically opposed in terms of what their reported philosophies were, and still they were the best of friends. So that's an easy one. I think a particular person that people are surprised when I say is Amanda Gorman. So Amanda Gorman is the poet who spoke for the inauguration, and she really is just such an inspiration for me. She is wiser beyond her years. She's overcome challenges in her life that most people don't know. If you haven't seen her speak, I encourage you all to just do a quick search for her. This is my favorite quote of hers, and it's something that resonates with me every day, including especially on the hard days. There's always light, if only we're brave enough to see it. If only we're brave enough to be it. So think about those moments when you're yeah, right. I mean, even my saying it, I got the chills again. I got the chills again, right? I always get the chills, even anytime I read anything that she's written. And listening to her is just, you are in a really special space if you take the time to really listen to her. Because what most people don't know is that Amanda Gorman reportedly has certain speech articulation challenges. And it's hard for me to imagine, that a poet would have those challenges, especially a poet who she herself presents her poetry before millions of people. And she also has reportedly an auditory issue, which, that can affect speech, of course. So for somebody this young to be able to look at the world and the challenges that we face at all levels across all people, and to be able to see there's light. And so if only we can see it, right? So you wake up or you're going to sleep and you've had a bad day or you're expecting a bad day, look for the light, look for the light. And then if only we can be it. So on those days where you're trucking along and maybe you encounter somebody who's not doing so well, can you be the light? Can I be the light for somebody? And is the light simply listening to somebody? Is the light validating somebody? Is the light simply saying, how can I help? What do you need? That to me is so just encouraging. And the last person I would say, just for purposes of the conversation, of course, the list goes on and on and on. I just recently saw an Instagram piece. Jane Fonda was being interviewed. And of course, we all know Jane Fonda, very famous actress, also very well-known activist. For those of you that don't know that, you should know that. And she was being interviewed, and the question was asked, why is having girlfriends so important?
Yeah,
And she had
I
an
love
answer.
this piece.
She had an answer. Your health. I would never have imagined that's what she would have said. And when she said that, I thought, oh my gosh, 100%. And here's the thing. We're in a different place in time now, I think, with our relationships with women. Yes, you have your girlfriends, and you have fun with each other, you socialize, etc. When you get to a point where you're at where we are, Ivy, girlfriends, real girlfriends, they are your tribe. They are the women that you can share anything with without judgment, with the anticipation that somebody will either hold your hand or let you hold their hand. And I know now, having come through the pandemic, and even more significantly, this past year, I love and respect and give thanks to God every day for my friends.
I think, and I want to go here for a minute or two before we close out. I think our friendships and the women we align with are so important in our lives. And ladies, our lives get busy. Let's be real. Between family responsibility, business, career responsibility, life is busy. Bottom line, take a moment. If you don't put yourself first, there is nobody there for you to take care of. If you go down, you can't take care of the family doesn't matter, that your career doesn't matter, your business doesn't matter. You have to take a few minutes as women leaders to put yourself first. The other thing that gets left by the wayside is, I wish I had time to have lunch with my girlfriends. I never have time to have lunch with my girlfriends. You know what? We have time to do what we make time to do. And sometimes it takes a little planning in advance. And I'm preaching as I'm preaching this, and I own this, I'm listening to myself say this for myself, because sometimes I have to say it out loud to make sure that I'm doing it. And that's one of my tricks for me. Ivy, you just told everybody you have to put yourself first. What are you doing to take care of yourself, right? Ivy, you just told everybody that personal, interpersonal relationship, girlfriend relationships are vitally important. When's your next play date with your girlfriends, right? Remember, sometimes we say things out loud to hear ourselves, not to hear ourselves talk, but to remind ourselves of the importance of doing those things. And
Absolutely.
I want to give one shout out, and I'm going to give you this opportunity because I know we're both aligned here. One of my greatest women who have inspired me my entire life has been my mom. And it's just true. She believed in me more than I ever believed in myself. She believed and showed me that anything was possible when I set my mind to it and my heart to it. And I followed through. And when I wanted to dance 6 days a week until I fell over, she let me dance 6 days a week. And when I fell over, she said, now can I help you? Right? She let me fall on my butt. She let me fail. She let me make mistakes. And she was there to show me the vision and the light and the possibilities and believe in me that anything is possible. So I wanted to honor my mom today. And Ariana, I know you have a pretty close relationship with your mom.
I do. And my mom, God bless her, my mom does believe I'm Wonder Woman. She believes that way more than I do. Sometimes maybe too much so. I am certainly grateful, though, for the encouragement, the love, the belief in me. And, sometimes even when you have a tough conversation with your mom and she says, well, you can handle that. And you think, well, I don't want to handle that. And when she says you can handle it, can we take the pause? Yeah, she really believes I can handle that.
Yeah. So Ariana, thank you for joining me here today on Slater Success Live.
Thank you, my friend.
And hang out in the green room while I close the show here.
Will do. Thanks, everybody.
And as you continue to see this stream, feel free to pop your comments in, pop your thoughts in, pop your questions in. We're going to be paying attention to it. Stay tuned. We're back with more Slater Success Live on International Women's Month in a couple of weeks with Brittany Barreto. She's a leader in the femtech space. She's a young leader. She's a powerful woman. She's a brilliant woman. So as we take you from my generation to all the generations that we're touching during Women's History Month. Thank you for joining me. See you next time.